Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Hi, everyone.
hey, everyone.
Got a few minutes for everybody to join in. How you all doing?
Thumbs up from Robert.
Good, good. 6
Greetings from Miami, where the day has not started yet. It's only 3 o'clock in the morning here.
Oh, wow. And you stayed up just to watch us. Fantastic.
Oh, glad to have you here.
I'm impressed.
It's excellent.
So we're going to have a good meeting.
I'm sure we will have a good meeting. Will's presenting, so it's likely to be very good.
For sure.
Good, great.
No, now you've just set the bar too high, Morris.
I've been,
I've heard
you-
many good things.
as I've
Yeah.
been to many of your lectures, I know the bar is very high already. Should we get started? Welcome, everybody. Yeah, we'll let people in if there's anybody else coming in. Justin's just connecting. And Ben, let's just give him a second. Maybe we just get started.
Yeah, just roll on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Elementor Sydney meetup. So this month we talk about dynamic tags and conditions for Elementor, which is going to be exciting because I'm in the middle of trying to set up a website and using that, and others are doing similar. So it'll be a good lecture. Looking forward to that. Yeah. So just a quick agenda. Yeah, 6 p.m. start or 3 a.m. start, depending on where you are in the world. So we'll do a brief round of introductions of ourselves, and then anybody that wants to as well. We'll talk about what's new in the Elementor world. Will give us his presentation, any questions and answers, I guess, at the end of that, or through the chat group. We'll talk about that in a second. And finishing around 7 p.m., about an hour's time, hour and a half, depending how we go. Yeah, just to note that it is being recorded. Okay, so I'll let Will introduce himself.
Hey, everyone. My name is Will. So I'm part of this Elementor Sydney team. I also organize the WordPress Sydney meetup as well, and I'm helping to organize the Linux Australia Conference 2022, which is going to be in January, so that's going to be cool. My background is I was a WordPress developer. I currently specialize in integrations with WordPress, which means WordPress as a component in your business, and then I connect that to all the various different systems, either using Zapier or my own custom API connections.
John.
I am John, and I am a graphic designer, and I am self-employed. I run my own business from my office that I am in right now. And I fell in love with Elementor about 2 years ago, and it's kind of used on every single website I build now. And I don't think I've built anything using any of the program for about 6 months now. So I've probably forgotten how to use all the others, but that's just because I love Elementor and I love the way it works.
Excellent. Julia.
Yes, hi, I'm Julia. I'm a web designer. I work for a software company there. We don't use WordPress or Elementor there, but I do have my own business on the side with a small team. And we do websites, graphic design, and digital marketing as well. I've started using Elementor a few years back now. Always in love with it, and here to learn with you guys.
That's great. And myself, Morris. little bit different. I have a full-time accounting or business intelligence career, and web design and Elementor and everything else is a hobby which I've been doing for probably most of my life. So that's me. Just a brief code of conduct. It basically says, be nice to everybody. There's a link there, you can read that. Be nice to everybody and we'll all be happy. Kid and pet bombing, that's totally acceptable. Just keep the mic on mute, that'll be great. And yeah, enjoy the session. Now, those of you who want to, please introduce yourselves. At the bottom, you'll see some icons, these icons over here. You can just use that to raise your hand. There's not too many people in here. You can physically raise your hand if you wish, and then unmute yourselves and introduce yourself. And also, yeah, what are you drinking? And I guess, yeah, I'm being boring with a bottle of water.
I've got water too.
Have a
I'm
birthday
gonna
cup.
grab mine so I don't run behind. I'll be right back.
Okay. Anybody want to introduce themselves? Go for it, Robert.
Yeah, Robert. Been in IT for somewhere 30 plus years. Started blogging in 2005 when I volunteered for a few years over in Papua New Guinea, and then I started with a platform on 2 cows, and then in 2017 I moved my blog to WordPress. I think it was around version 2 anyway, and it's more or less from the start I gained a lot of confidence in WordPress as a platform. And over the years, it's always made me laugh when people talk about, well, WordPress is not really a platform for developing websites. And since then it's come in leaps and bounds. But websites is just part of, I run a little IT consultancy firm, and I have about 12 bespoke websites that I run for people on my own AWS assets. And I'm a strong believer in not coding a website, certainly not a WordPress-based one. So I've tried a few platforms, I've tried a few frameworks over the years, probably half a dozen, and each time I've moved from one platform to another, I've had to migrate all of my websites across. And the last time I moved across was about 3 years, which was to Elementor, and I think I have a lot of highly regard the Elementor platform and the team behind it. And being based in Sydney, or just north of Sydney, up on the Central Coast, I am looking forward to the restrictions lifting on Monday, so I can go out for a Friday afternoon beer again.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think we all
Thank you.
do
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm Felix from Costa Rica.
Wow.
I use Elementor. Hi. Well, here is 2 a.m. in the morning. I was my first meet with you guys. I'm excited to learn about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
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 Anybody else?
Oscar, over to you.
Yes, I was gladly surprised when I received a direct message on the chat in Spanish coming from Felix in Costa Rica. If it's 3 a.m. for me, it's only 2 for him. So it's even earlier. My name is Oscar Henao, Centrix Corporation. I've been on this business for a long time. I had hair when I started doing this 25 years ago. My first website was up in 1995. And if you go to archive.org, you're going to see that the first snapshot that we have is December 2nd, 1998. And Google's first is December 3rd, 1998. So I can prove that I've been on this for a long time. Using Elementor, using WordPress about 12 years. using Elementor about 3 years now. We're on the second renewal, ready for the third one, and just love it. I mean, just love it. It made my life a lot easier, and it helped us continue in our track of not building websites, because our business is not building websites. Our business is building websites that work, which is a total different animal. We not only develop the website, but also take care of driving traffic to it. So we're pretty much into SEO, social media, email marketing, and all those tools to drive traffic to the website, but also make sure that we deliver content of value for that traffic. And on top of that, we continue working until we make it accessible for everyone. We're pretty much into ADA compliance. So it's a full stack of things that we do, and that's our experience. Excellent. And it's good. It's good. I enjoy it so much that I get up at this time to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for holding this.
That's great, Oscar. Appreciate that.
Matthias?
Yes, good morning from South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Matthias, and I run a design agency. And recently we had to start using WordPress because clients tended to be demanding, that platform. And then also discovered that Elementor was a nice to have tool to fast track, development. So I'm quite happy to be here and see how much more I can learn, from other designers or developers out there. Any tricks that I can take from here. Thank you very much for hosting this as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks, Matthias.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Jose, you still got your hand up?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry about my English and try to grow up. So my name is Jose Icaro. Yeah, my microphone is okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I'm a surgeon dentistry. But I build websites, solutions using WordPress since 2009 in Brazil. And now it's a lot of history between this time, but since last year, we became partners with AWS as a startup, and so that year we start some projects in USC, and we have new partners in Australia. And yes, I built key solutions using Elementor since 2016, and it really changed my life. And I never can imagine the Elementor hub. So we try to clean our account to join and to make a settings for Elementor experts, because we are I'm just launching my school in Brazil about WordPress, and all my life my history with WordPress as a developer. So I have some certificates with Yazoi, can monetize more, and I also aim to go to Google. Sometimes I make some money with as a publisher and advertising. So I have a good skills and I spend a lot of time with computer. So yeah, it's a place to me to be here, because in Brazil we don't have nothing about something like this, like that. Yeah, I think we can expand this with Elementor and maybe try to grow up my skills with English skills. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
Welcome. That's great.
Thanks, Jose.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else's hand up, so I'll move on. Just some of the Elementor updates that I hope I didn't miss anybody. Elementor updates, not too many new updates this month into the program. So just to talk about the academy that's been launched recently, place to go and do all the training. It's basically a hub. I think Jose also mentioned that. Have a look at that. There's a link to that. There's a couple of blog posts that have been linked over there as well.
For me?
I lost audio. Is it only me?
Morris, have we lost you?
I think we might have lost Morris.
Could be an issue.
We'll give him a minute or so to come back. I think he was on his phone.
Maybe his battery ran out.
Okay. Yep. Rebooting. Okay, I might just jump in. There we go. So what Morris was talking about was the Elementor Academy has launched. It's like a training portal, as I think Jose mentioned. So Elementor, they're really kind of going for this kind of training, community and training, and they're splitting all this sort of stuff up. So they've got the hub, which is the forums. Now they've got the academy, which is all the training for there. There's already quite a few courses there for beginners, which is really, really good. The other link that I had, and these links, will make these links available afterwards. So I'll copy these in the Facebook group. I'll copy them in the Elementor meetup event as well. So you'll get these links. The second one was, it's quite an interesting article. So it's on elementor.com's blog. And it's from, I think this is pronounced correctly, Saujay Pawar, and he's the CEO of Brainstorm Force. And it's basically the CEO of Ultimate Add-ons, which is one of the top Elementor add-ons. And it's a really, really interesting read. It's not just about the Ultimate add-ons, but it's about his experience coming towards being a CEO and running a company as well, what he feels about the WordPress environment, the Elementor community. So it's like an all-round type of blog post. So it's a really interesting read for that. It's not just about Elementor. It's kind of got a more business focus as well. The last one as well, here is a quick start guide to managing remote web design and web creation teams. Now, I know a lot of people on these meetups, they're kind of just solo people. But certainly you get to a point where, you start to see bigger projects or you want to expand a little bit, and that ends up, have to hire people. So this is a good article that really kind of focuses around about hiring and managing kind of offshore remote people. So if that's something that you're thinking about doing or expanding into, you can get some quite a few good tips on that. So those are kind of 3 rough articles today. No Elementor updates this month, unfortunately. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so tonight's main topic, I'm going to be talking about dynamic tags and conditions for Elementor Pro. Now, this is Elementor Pro, so it's not the free version. The free version does not support dynamic tags, unfortunately. So if you try and use some of them, you'll see a little lock icon. With those, you have to upgrade to the Pro license for those. And the dynamic conditions, well, that's not built into Elementor Core. It's actually a plugin, but it does rely on the dynamic tags. So this one as well is for Pro users. Okay, so let's step back a little bit. So rather than talk straight off about dynamic tags, let's step back and talk about what is dynamic content, because this might be a bit new. And I know I've got some people in here who just build Elementor websites, but have more business focus. So this is like a step back, just like a beginner's level introduction here. So dynamic content, it's the ability to add different content into a container. So that could be a div, it could be a span, it could be a p tag, it could be a field, depending on what type of post is being viewed. Now, you may already be familiar with posts like post properties, like post title, post author, and post date. They're pretty standard in WordPress, and they're almost always displayed on blog posts when you're reading through a blog post. So these data are considered dynamic. And when you view a single post, a blog post, using the default WordPress single post template, those template fields for post title, post author, and post date will update with the different data from that post. So here's a rough example. You have to excuse my really bad PowerPoint or Google Sheets skills. Here's an example of a single post template. And in WordPress, this is the one that displays your single blog post when you click on that. In this example, this has 3 fields. So we've got a post title, we've got a post author, and we've got a post date field. The template is currently blank because we're not viewing any posts, so the fields are empty. Now we have 3 posts in the database. And so let's view the first one using our single post template. The data from the first post in the database now fills the associated fields. So we've got the database here on the left and the template on the right, and we can see that data is being displayed in those fields. This time, the data from the second post in the database fills the associated fields. Note that the post template has not changed. It's just different dynamic data that is being populated. And lastly, data from the third post in the database now fills those associated fields in the template. And that's what we mean by dynamic content. This is what we're going to be focusing on in tonight's presentation. Now, Elementor Pro provides some limited dynamic content, and you'll see those if you edit a page, edit a template, you'll see those on the left-hand side navigation part, and they're the widgets. So widgets like post title, post excerpt, featured image, author boxes, post navigation, post information, post content, things like that. That's dynamic content. So it's grabbing content from the underlying database information for those. Now, these dynamic content widgets, they're pretty good, and they allow you to build some good templates for your posts and pages, but we can go one step further with dynamic tags. Okay, so dynamic tags, they allow you to change the data source for certain properties within Elementor widgets. So let's break that down a little bit. So that's a bit of a mouthful. So Elementor widget properties. So what I'm talking about, when I'm talking about Elementor widget properties, they allow you to configure the widget's appearance and operation. And you've seen them all before. We're all Elementor users here. So I've highlighted some of the properties in here. So we've got a heading, and we've got a content. So in the content tab, you've got a title, we've got a link, we've got, can you read that one? Size, and HTML tag, and alignment for those. And those are all highlighted with the red arrows. So these are the widget properties, and that's what I mean when I talk about widget properties. And you can see more properties when you select the style and the advanced tabs as well. So going back to dynamic tags, if a widget property supports dynamic tags, you're going to see a little icon in that particular property that looks like a stack of coins or a stack of layers. If anyone actually knows what the real icon is meant to be, you can let me know, because I don't really know. I thought it was 3 coins, but then someone said to me, why would there be 3 coins in a property widget? And so I don't really know what it is. So someone said it might be layers, and then I said to them, but you know, Elementor is not a layer system, so we don't know. So 3 coins or 3 layers.
I think the database.
Database, yeah.
Database, of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well done. High five to everyone.
That's a stack of pancakes.
Stack of pancakes. I'm going to go with that one. Stack of pancakes. I'm going to update this. So if a widget property support dynamic tags, you're going to see that stack of pancakes icons that I've highlighted in the red there. Okay, so when you click on this dynamic tag icon, what you're going to get is an additional list of data sources from which you can bring data into that particular widget property. So here I have a post title widget selected, and I've clicked on the dynamic tag for the link property within that particular widget. Now, normally, if you're designing a blog post or an archive page, then the post title, when you're viewing it, Normally, it would link to the blog post if you clicked on it in the archive. However, with dynamic tags, you can have a wider range of options to use as a URL link. Now, we could choose the URL from a custom field on the post, or even the results of a shortcode. You can even use dynamic tags to do pop-ups as well. Now, there are more dynamic sources available if you scroll down, and these sources will change depending on which widget you are using and the properties it has as well, because not all dynamic tags or not all properties can get the exact same information. So these sources will change, but usually some of them are pretty standard. For example, the post custom field is fairly standard for that. Now, in this example, I've flipped back to the WordPress block editor here, and I've added a custom field called YouTube URL and given it a valid YouTube URL address for those. Now, if you don't see custom fields meta box in your WordPress block editor, because usually I think by default it's not turned on, then you can go to, there's 3 vertical dots in the top right hand side of the WordPress block editor. You can click on those and it's going to open up a menu. It drops down, and then you can click on settings, and then you click on preferences, and then there's a tab in there called panels, and there's a slider, a switch to switch on custom fields. You've got to save and reload the page, but after that, you'll see those custom fields like this at the very bottom of the WordPress editor. So by default, these are not switched on. So if you don't see them, then go through that process of the 3 vertical dots into preferences, panels, and switch on custom fields if this is what you want to use. This is it. It's a custom field. It's called YouTube URL. I've given it a valid YouTube link in there. So this is within WordPress. I've saved that. So let's jump back into Elementor. So switching back to the edit page in Elementor, what I've done here is I've added a video widget, and I'm selecting the post custom field as the dynamic tag that I want to use for the link. So this is the video widget here. We've got the source, YouTube. I guess that's not really relevant for this, but the link one, I've clicked the dynamic tag, I've scrolled down, and I've clicked on post custom field. And what Elementor is going to do is it opens up this little extra dialog box when you click on the post custom field, and it allows you to select the key, and that's the field name for that. And Elementor does a pretty good job. It looks through the WordPress post, it sees if there's any custom fields, and it should display that in the list there. But if it doesn't, then you can add that custom key name into the custom key field there. But I've never had a problem with selecting those for that. So that's the process. We were in WordPress edit mode. We've added a custom field, given it a name and a value. We then went back into the form in Elementor mode. I've dragged on a video widget. I've went to the link. I've clicked on the dynamic tag stack, and then I've selected post custom field. And what that does is you'll get this dialog box here. In fact, you won't. You'll just go to post custom field, and you've got to click on that name again, and it pops up this little additional dialog box, which then you can select the key for that. So if I go back and refresh the page in the front end, this is what I get. So it's no longer the default Elementor video that plays when you drag a video widget to your page. It's now using this custom post field and the URL. So it's actually passing that information through as the link source to the video widget. So welcome to dynamic tags. That's the process. It's fairly simple to use. Again, you can pull sources from a lot of different places. And if you use advanced custom fields as well, then you'll be able to choose some of those from advanced custom fields to use as dynamic sources. But that's the basic understanding for that. Now, a little bit of a practical example. Can you see that okay? Yep, that looks all right. So one of my client sites, it has a recipe post. Now, I use the Advanced Custom Fields, or ACF plugin, to create a field group, allowing the website owner to enter recipe data in the WordPress editor for each recipe. So this is what they see at the bottom of their WordPress block editor when they're creating a new recipe. So there's all these tabs, recipe author, description, ingredients. What else does that say? Method, notes, and image gallery. So I've got ingredients highlighted. And this is an ACF repeating block for this one. So they just go and add all the recipe ingredients one by one. They can add new rows, the button at the bottom. And these are all custom fields, and that's what Advanced Custom Fields does. I've got the Pro version. I'm a lifetime user, so I got a lifetime deal, which is great. But even if you have to pay for the Pro version every year, I think it pays for itself on any projects. So a nice little custom field ACF group here. Now, when we go into, so this is switching from the block editor, and this is back into the template, the Elementor template for the recipes custom post type. And we can see here is what I've done is I've got this, actually it's an additional plugin called AE, and it's got ACF repeater fields in it, just because Elementor Pro doesn't support that particular ACF repeater blocks, but this plugin does, but it's the same concept. So here I've got the block layout, and I've clicked on the dynamic tag, and I've set that to recipe ingredients, and the repeater field as well, and I've set that to the name of the repeater field, which is ingredients repeater. And then the dynamic data starts to fill that particular field. Now, although I've got that example there for the repeater, which is an advanced ACF field, the same holds true for the normal stuff. So I've not got arrows to this, but right above you can see prep and you can see cook, and those are kind of times. So prep time 1 hour 0 minutes, and cook time 1 hour 0 minutes, and that is specified in the method here as well. So the customer come into the WordPress editor, they click on the method or the description, I can't remember exactly which one, but they can put the prep time and they can put the cook time for those and the number of servings. And these are just simple text elements or heading elements. And again, I drag a paragraph or graph heading in there, click on the dynamic tag, and then find that particular post ACF post field name. And that's all I do. And it starts to bring in that dynamic data from that particular data source. So for this recipe, this is the front end. So I've had the WordPress editor with the custom fields. We've had the Elementor template editing the template. Now this is the front end of that. And we can see here that all these dynamic tags are being brought in from ACF, the Advanced Custom Fields data post fields, passing through the Elementor template and displaying on the front end. So we've got the prep time, we've got cook, we've got servings, we've got ingredients. And in fact, the author image and the gallery, the images above here as well, they are all in ACF and they're all dynamic data that's being pulled through using those dynamic taggings for that. Now, if you're a developer, it's good news. You can create your own dynamic tags as well. So there's a link there at the bottom. Elementor's got very, very good documentation. So the URL here is developers.elementor.com and then /dynamic hyphen tags. So if you're a developer, and there might not be money in here, but you don't have to just use the Elementor dynamic tags that are available. You can create your own if you know what you're doing. So there's a class that you can override. There's properties for that as well, and you can create a whole wide of different dynamic tags. And in fact, the plugin that I'm going to show you next called Dynamic Conditions, they also have another plugin called Dynamic Tags, which adds even more tags onto that, if you're not a developer yourself. So that's the basic concept for dynamic tags. It allows you to select basically a different source and suck that information through the Elementor template and to be able to display that sort of information on your Elementor templates in the front end. I think it's really useful, and it really does extend the type of templates that you're able to create with Elementor way beyond what Elementor itself gives you. So for example, this recipe widget, it'd be really difficult to suck in that sort of dynamic data and just using Elementor alone. So these dynamic tags are really, really useful for doing that sort of stuff. Okay, so that was dynamic tags. Let's move on to dynamic conditions. There's not very many more slides left to go, just a few slides because this is fairly simple to do. So dynamic conditions, they basically allow you to apply logic, a bit of logic, like this logic block here, on some data to decide whether or not to do something. That's basically what a dynamic condition is. So in our context for Elementor, though, for most cases, this is used to display or hide page elements like widgets or sections based on the data inside a dynamic tag. So here's the plugin that I use. It's free for there. So Elementor Pro itself doesn't have any dynamic conditions. I think they have a very basic, you could hide some stuff on mobile, but it doesn't have this whole dynamic complex condition built into the core app. So this is why we need an additional plugin. So it is called Dynamic Conditions, and it's free in the WordPress.org repository. There's no pro version, so it's just all free, which is great. And this plugin adds conditions to dynamic tags to show and hide a widget or a section. Here's an example of one here. So advanced users can set complex conditions. You can check if a field is empty or if it contains some value, if it equals a value, or if it's greater or smaller or between a certain value. So here we have a dynamic tag. It's an ACF, again, an ACF field, and we can show and hide when a condition contains, and it's got a particular bit of text in there. Let's have a look. So here I've got one of my demo websites, and here I've selected the same video widget that I was using from a previous example. So with the dynamic conditions plugin installed, we can see the conditions in the advanced tab. So where we before in the content tab, we're now flicking over to the advanced tab. And then there's a little section called dynamic conditions, which you can expand down there. Now, before the condition can work, you have to select which dynamic tag the condition will test for. So this is the information that's coming through dynamically from the database or your post content. And that's the tag that you're looking for that you're going to set the conditions for. So I'm going to choose the same post custom field that contains a YouTube URL. So here we go, dynamic tag, post custom field, YouTube URL. Now there's lots of options to base your conditions on. And there are even more that's showing down below this screenshot when you scroll down. But essentially, you choose one of these conditions. So we've got is equal to, is not equal to, contains, does not contain, is empty, is not empty, between, less than, greater than, things like that. So in this one, I have select contains. Now, the next dropdown is compare type. So we've got our dynamic tag. We've got this YouTube URL field. I've selected the show hide to hide condition. The condition has got contains, so that's the way that this complex condition is going to look for. The compare type, now the compare type, there's only a few in there. There's text, there's, what else is there? Text, there's like date, there's month, and there's a string to text, so there's some different comparisons, but text usually works pretty well for all those. And then lastly, is the condition value that you're wanting to test for. So this one here, I've put in the URL ID of the video that I was just showing. So that's the URL ID for that. And basically, this is setting up the condition to say, if that ID is contained within this post custom field YouTube URL, then hide that particular widget. Before we move on, notice that the conditional value has also got a dynamic tags icon. So you don't have to just type in information. You can pull your conditional value in using a dynamic tag based on something else that's in the content of either the database or the post as well. So we've got refreshing the screen. And because that's the same video with the same URL ID, now when you refresh that dynamic condition kicks in and it's hidden that particular URL. Now that's probably a bit of a silly example for hiding a YouTube video based on its URL. But you know, you've got pretty much the example here to show you how the condition works. So you could hide stuff based on a particular number range. So if it's greater than 1,000 or less than 1,000, then you can show and display different types of widgets. So this could be really good for building up maybe like an online questionnaire or one of these online landing pages that queries people. So there's a lot of time you'll do a landing page and you'll say, are you looking for a website? Are you looking for digital marketing? Are you looking for an e-commerce site? And you can build these dynamic tags, landing pages based on people's responses there and then, and these dynamic conditions will refresh and they'll kick in using Ajax and display different layers on the landing page depending on the answer to the question. So really, really flexible things to use. I use these all the time in client websites. They're really, really useful for hiding stuff, not just on mobile, but depending on the different type of content that you enter as well. Okay, so that's my very basic introduction to dynamic tags and dynamic conditions. And they really do allow you to build a more complex template using Elementor Pro than you would normally, with the set of widgets that comes with Elementor. And I'm sure you can do a lot more extra stuff when you start adding on different plugins like Ultimate add-ons for Elementor. But just with using the Elementor core dynamic tags and this one little plugin, you've got this huge, great flexibility to really be able to build complex business level templates from your Elementor editor. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much. I've kind of kept a little bit brief today. I don't want to lay too much on you guys tonight. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to do those. I'm just going to get rid of this share button just now and bring up all your happy faces again. So if you guys got any questions, you can drop them down and I'll answer them for the presentation, or in general, if you've got any wordy pressy type questions, you can drop them in the chat as well. Let's see if I'll just have a look at the chat and see if there's anything there. Or unmute yourself, ask me a question directly. If you don't fancy typing, it's quicker.
Did I ask it for you? No?
Sure.
Okay. Why you prefer to use ACF or you don't press against Croco blocks, for example, Jack and Guy? What do you think about Jack and Croco?
Yeah, I prefer ACF over just the basic custom fields because it allows you to group stuff together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I was just doing like a one field, then I might just use the block edit custom field. But the ACF, the field groups, is really, really powerful. It allows you to build different types of field groups and apply them to multiple post types. For example, if you've got a website that's got 3 or 4 different post types, you can have like a general ACF field group and apply that across all those different post types rather than have to go into them individually. It also extends the type of fields that you can get as well. So for example, the repeater field for that, where the ingredients, it actually allows the user to go and add extra columns, extra rows in for that, which you can't do with a standard custom field within the post. Then there's things like flexible layout, which allows you to build complex sections just from ACF as well. But I love the plugin. It's really well coded. It's got a minimal footprint as well. So it's not got a lot of bloat, and I think the price point is pretty good as well per site.
Yeah, really good. I have the same idea, but I cannot use the ACF when I start to use dynamic repeater, for example, and listings and CPT. Amazing.
There's a good plugin called Pods, Pods. That's available, and it allows you to create custom post types and custom taxonomies as well. So if you use Pods and ACF, you're setting yourself up pretty good to be able to create all these backend stuff without having to develop anything.
Yeah, I prefer more than ACF, Jetting Guy, for example, because we last year and this year we did a lot of websites using exporting some layouts using from Photoshop to using Elementor and dynamically, for example, a good website in February. Yeah, a lot of job. I must do something more than 52 pages.
Oh my goodness!
Photoshop. Yeah, they need. We need 4 CPT with filters. And I think in this moment I really think about ECF. When you talk about the dynamic tags, I remember this. Yeah, really like. Nice. Thanks. Really thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jose. Anyone else got any questions?
Oscar, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. My question goes to Will. Very good presentation, by the way, very clear. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Why would you need ACF to use pods? I mean, what can ACF do that you cannot do with pods? And also, which is, in your opinion, the best set of widgets for dynamic content? Is it dynamic content for Elementor? Is it, I mean, many of them. What's your opinion?
So the one that I've shown, dynamic content, just that one there, I think that's the best because it's got the minimal footprint. I know there's some other plugins that do allow some sort of dynamic content for those, but I've always used this one. It's always been really good. It's always been reliable. It does what it says on the tin. So that's a famous advert from the UK, from a paint brand. I think it's a floor staining brand. It says Ronseal, it does what it says on the tin, and I love that. And so I like applying that method to plugins. So if you do one thing and one thing well, I really like that. Regarding ACF, I think, is that a similar question to Jose? Why would you use ACF instead of pods? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So ACF itself has a greater range of field types than pod does. ACF as well is more developer friendly. So I'm a developer. So at the back end, they've got a whole API. So what you can't do with the front end interface with ACF, you can do programmatically in the back end by extending classes, and creating your own different content for that. And in fact, ACF, they also have a block template as well. So if you're looking to design new blocks, new custom blocks for your WordPress development, ACF have a template for that built into ACF that allows you to create blocks really, really quickly without having to develop them from scratch as well. So, if you've got a new client and they're using the WordPress block editor, and you want to bring in a custom block, ACF is probably one of the quickest ways to develop that at the moment without having to, drag JavaScript files and all that sort of stuff in the back end and do it for yourself. So yeah, I really like those two aspects. They really go well together. And I've been using ACF since it came out, and it's always been very stable as well, even in the major upgrades. So when they're going like major point releases, they spend a lot of time testing, and there's been relatively few major issues with those that I know that other of these types of plugins have had. Like pods certainly had a few issues in the past with major upgrades. So that's my reasons. Good question. Thank you.
Maybe I'll ask a question. Is it possible to get a user of the website to enter, so for example, you showed the recipes, for a user to directly enter the recipes into the database through pods or ACF?
It would
or
certainly
something
be
like that.
For like an end visitor, or?
That's right, yeah.
I guess you could open that up for a form, but it'd be a form based. It wouldn't really be.
And then feed that to ACF.
Yep. So you could capture that using a Gravity form or a Ninja form. And then, based on the entry that's left, then you could feed that through to be a user-based recipe. But you want to be very careful when allowing people to enter stuff directly onto your website, because all the strange things that they can put in for that. So it's not I don't think it's a use case that I would be happy about. But yeah, theoretically, it's possible to allow people to enter stuff and then use the dynamic tags to feed that stuff through from the entry for that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, would you use the conditional, that dynamic conditions to filter if you want to find all the recipes for cakes? Is that what you'd use, or you'd do that within ACF or within Elementor?
Yeah, that would be a different thing. That'd be filtering for that. So there's different plugins for the filtering on that. So the dynamic conditions is just really basically hiding stuff or showing stuff based on some different bit of data for there. So you could have like two different sections in there, and depending on what a user chooses, then you can display one section or another section based on that.
Okay.
I should maybe do a talk on filtering. That'd be a good topic for a future one.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. That's okay, guys. If you don't have any other questions about dynamic conditions, you can ask stuff about regular WordPress things, and the team will happy to help you out.
Will, just in the chat, we do have a question in regards to ACF, asking fancy using Croco blocks, meta blocks, or Toolset.
Yes. So Toolset. I've actually used Toolset before, and that's what was actually on that website that I've shown you, that Oscar can't seem to get a link to, kyalapurefoods.com.au. That's one of my recent clients. They actually did use Toolset, or the previous designers used Toolset for that. It's very, very basic Toolset. If you have a look at the code in the back end, it's really kind of messy for that. So I didn't like that. So we got rid of Toolset for those, and we used pods just to create the custom post types for those, or I might have coded them myself. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I think when I look at plugins, then I kind of look at three different things. I look at what they do. I look at their, well, four things. What they do, the support queue on WordPress.org in the repository, see if they're active and replying to questions. I don't think Toolset were very responsive for those. I have a look at the user interface as well. Is it consistent with WordPress? Does it look as if it fits in there? And for some of these plugins like Toolset, you know, I think it's got quite a few jarring colors, and it doesn't really look as if it should ever fit into WordPress for those as well. And then I look at the code in the back end. You know, what type of code is it using, and what does it produce in the front end as well? You know, is it producing pure HTML5 output, or is it like splattered with divs and all that sort of stuff? So I kind of look at those four different aspects when I'm choosing stuff. So I've not used Crocoblock before, but I hear good things, especially for WooCommerce. There's a lot of people use Crocoblock with WooCommerce. It supports the particular templates very well. So things like your cart, your check-in page as well is supported. So that's pretty good. But I've not used it personally. Metabox, I haven't used that one either, but I would use ACF for that, because with ACF, you can force your particular field group either down below where it's the metabox, or you can force it off to the side as a Gutenberg panel as well. I mean, you can manually drag them across anyway, but for normal users, they might not be able to understand that, but you can set those as like a metabox or as a side one for that. Thank you, Julia. I was scrolling up and down.
Thanks.
Murray says Crocoblock is pretty good. 20 plugins and 150 widgets. Yeah, I can see the appeal for things like that. So when you add these big plugins that got like, you know, 500 widgets or 3,000 different buttons, I can see the appeal from like a non-developer or a very beginner. Just be aware as to what stuff, what assets these plugins are loading in. So by assets, I'm talking about JavaScript files, images, and all that sort of stuff. How much stuff is it loading in? Is it loading in everything? Just, you know, in case you might want to use those one widget, or is it loading in those assets conditionally based on what you're using? I mean, for an example, I know this is an Elementor meetup, but you know, it's got nothing to do with that. Divi, the other page builder, in the past, I know they've made a lot of progress so far, but in the past, Divi was pretty renowned for loading in all the JavaScript and all the CSS files at the beginning, just in case you might have used one thing. And that's what weighed the speed down quite a lot. So Divi was traditionally has been really, really slow. With Elementor, and especially since the Google Core Web Vitals have kicked in, they've put a lot of work, the team put a lot of work into only loading the CSS files and the JavaScripts that are actually being used by the widgets that you're using within your particular template. So it's really, really neat. It's really slim type of plugin, considering it's a huge major plugin. And that's what I'd be thinking about. That's what I'd be looking at for things like, you know, Crocoblock. If I were to use it, I'd be looking at how much assets it's using, how much extra load that's given to the WordPress website based on the usage, the amount of things that I'm actually using for. Someone says, shh, we don't talk about Divi. That's all right. We can see the D word in here. ACF is simple and fun to use. I don't know about fun. It's simple. It's like these adverts where you see on the shopping channel, you know, on these online shopping channels, you see this person's cleaning their bathroom with this new whiz bang, cleaning thing, and they're so happy. It's like, oh, this is the best thing ever. You know, you're still cleaning your shower. It's not happy about it. It might do a little bit faster, which is good, but you're still cleaning your shower. The same with ACF. You're still building a website. I get your point. That was good.
Any other questions? Well, I can't see any coming through the chat. So if somebody wants to speak now.
Or forever hold your peace.
Or until next time.
Until next time, yeah. Oh, what's my go-to plugin? Suresh is asking. What's my go-to plugin?
Where do we start?
What do I have on all websites? I have.
It better be Elementor. It better be Elementor.
No, it's not all the time. I have WordFence on everything. I have Gravity Forms on everything. Let's see, I have Yoast Duplicate. It used to be something else. I can't remember what it was, but Yoast taken over. So Duplicate Post, because that saves you so much time. For those ACF as well, if I'm building like a custom backend for those. What other things? I'm not quite sure. My go-to plugins. Anyone else have go-to plugins?
Use Updraft Plus.
Updraft Plus.
Yes.
Yes. I agree. It's good.
Let me pull up my list. That was cheat sheet.
I'm pulling up my list too. Oh, my password's wrong. How about you, John? Have you got any go-to plugins?
Kind of the obvious stuff, really, just the things that, being a graphic designer, that I don't know how to do. So the main one is caching and using WP Rocket for that. Just because it's doing a lot of things in the back end that's hiding code at certain times or something, things I don't know how to do. And then the other one would be Yoast, as you said before, but just because Yoast is more aimed at sort of what Google's looking for, which again, I can make a website look nice, but I don't really know what kind of words Google's looking for. And it just kind of talks me through the best way to use keywords and stuff, I think, really. So that's kind of my go-to plugins, in that it's things that I don't have a clue about. Yeah, so I mean, that's why I use Elementor, because I like building things and it allows me to build things. So I don't need any more sort of designy things on top of that, because I'm a designer. But yes, anything coding and anything Google-based, search engine-based. So Yoast and WP Rocket.
I used to use Yoast.
I was a Yoast user also, but I moved to Rank Math, and it's going to be hard to take me out of it. Rank Math is excellent.
I hear good things about Rank Math. I use SEO Press myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Yoast, for me, the colors really got me. So once they put in all those jarring colors, that was me. I was like, not, my eyes are bleeding. I need something else.
And SEO Press, there's a free version of that as well, or is it a paid only version?
It's a paid only version. But when you pay for that, you also get the equivalent of Yoast's Premium plus the add-ons as well. So if you were to buy Yoast Pro and all the add-ons, then the price for that's quite large, whereas all that stuff's included within the price of SEO Press. So you get your WooCommerce SEO, you get your local business SEO, you get all your schemas, all that sort of stuff.
Robert.
I'm just looking through.
Robert, you want to talk? Put unmute.
Yeah, just a couple of plugins that I use across all of my sites. Some of the ones that were mentioned previously, but I also have, where I need to do galleries, I use NextGen Gallery. I also use for emailing because of the nature of email these days, where you just have to protect the reputation as a sender, I use WP Mail SMTP. And all emails that I send out from my websites, I do that through an SMTP service, not from the website itself. And also I've used for many years GD Press, and they have a really good security plugin. What I would really like ideally is a security plugin that I could install on all sites and then manage from a central place. I haven't really found anything other than if you manage WP. I have all my websites set up through Manage WP and do all my plugin updates and WordPress updates and backups and dealing with comments through that website. But I'm yet to find a security plugin that allows me to manage all my websites from a single place that's effective. And that's about it. All of the others, Gravity Forms and Rocket. I run Rocket. And normally for those big ones, I get an annual subscription, and then I just get an unlimited subscription like I do with Elementor, and then just run it on all of my websites. But if you're managing multiple websites, I highly recommend Manage WP. It's been around for many years, and it works really, really well. It can produce some really nice reports as well. Some monthly reports that can be scheduled that show, it's a value-added thing where you show the user how much effort goes into, how many plugins have been updated, how much down the uptime, how much it's been down, how often backups have taken place, a bit of stuff around. You can link it with Google Analytics and include some really just some top high level stuff on the analytics for the site, which they love. Yeah,
I do like Manage WP. I've been using that for many years as well.
It's great. I have one customer that hosts with GoDaddy, and if you go with their Pro subscription, it automatically includes a subscription to Manage WP, which I can then bring into my Manage WP dashboard, even though I'm not paying for it. Yeah, and all of the features are automatically enabled for when you host on GoDaddy like that. Yeah, it's very good. I love the reports. Yeah. The reports from Managed WP come out of a survey that they've done before they were Managed WP. They've done a survey to see what would improve the overall management of multiple websites. And I suggested management reporting across sites. They didn't have that then. And what ended up happening is that idea won. There was a prize for the best idea. And someone else stole my idea. I was the first one to suggest it, but I missed out on that. I missed out on that prize. Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Two other plugins that I use all the time are nav menu roles. And what this allows you to do is if you're allowing people to log into a particular website, you can hide and show menus based on menu items based on if they're logged in or logged out.
Yeah.
So you can basically have a login button, and then once they're logged in, you can say dashboard and login WP, or formerly Peter's login redirect, and that allows you to redirect people to a particular dashboard if they are logging in. So those two are pretty good to have as well. That was a good question.
One more that I use across all of my sites is one called Broken Link Checker.
You need to be careful with that one. That one's actually banned on a lot of hosting systems because it uses up a lot of resources. Especially
you can fine tune it. You can fine tune fair enough. Yeah. Good point.
There's lots of external services that can do broken link checks. And they kind of run off your cached version, so it's not using your server resources.
Good suggestion.
Be careful with that one.
Yep.
What plugin can you recommend for admin dashboard control? For example, you want to manage the columns, etc. Well, you can use Elementor. For that, you can just create a dashboard page, then assign a particular template to that page, and you can use dynamic tags to bring in all the dynamic information. There you go. There's a good segue right to what we've been talking about tonight. But there's no particular plugin I'd recommend for dashboards. Okay, guys, if that's all, I think we should maybe wrap it up.
Please, did I can talk just a second? No?
Yeah, we'd like to ask.
Yeah, okay. So just talking about the Robert story about security. As I said, I am surgeon, they teach Brazil. So but I try another 6 universities before this, and I like computing, and so it's really hard for me when I received DDoS in 2016. I don't know what they think about this, but for example, today I have 34 years. It's my age. But in all my life, I never have passed something like the last year. I don't know what you think about this, but for example, July from 2020, my infrastructure has some more than 100 websites, and so they start to attack me. Fragility points, for example, and so I need to close. My setting today was a mixed using Cloudflare and non-code and SiteGround, because in Brazil, I'm really sorry, but I got out from Brazil since 2015. I started to build websites 2010, and I don't have money, not today, but really, it's really hard for me because my father lost a lot of money, and my mother, we don't have, and so I tried to build websites, and they crashed me in 2016. When I wake up, my friend called to me, hey, we are broken. So they hacked our servers. So I have a bad result with backups in Brazil, and so I'm really it's really hard. I don't know what you think about the story, but today, for example, not today, 3 years without no how can I say some flags, but still I mean all points that the end they start with the client, and so infrastructure security, make all the things. Yeah, I manage it. Okay. I'm sorry about my English.
No, that's okay. That's okay. If you're talking about security and hacks and things like that, I mentioned at the start, I also run the WordPress Sydney meetup group. And this month, so end of this month, it's the 26th, it's a Tuesday at 6 p.m. Sydney time. I'm going to be doing my WordPress security talk. So all things WordPress security related.
I think a lot of websites here, and so I need to grow my skills because they call me, hey, 50 websites, and when I go, we don't have nothing. When you take a look, oh my God, 60 websites, and so I feel the last year was more expressively. And so, when will be the meet?
The meetup for that is the 26th of October.
26th, okay.
It's on a Tuesday. So I'm going to be talking all about WordPress security, from admin passwords all the way to Cloudflare, all the way to password hashing and biometrics as well. So it's a pretty comprehensive one. We might take a break in the middle because some people tend to fall asleep as well, because it's a big one. It's a long one. But if you're having problems with hacking or DDoS, then you might want to look into something like Cloudflare and get your website protected by Cloudflare, because that'll give you a little bit of protection against people hacking directly into your web account. But yeah.
Hey, Will, you're going to do all of that in 30 minutes, are you?
Yes. I can record the session, then play it back 3 times speed.
There's a lot. They're big subjects. They're big subjects, all of the ones you mentioned.
They are, yeah. So when I do the talk in person, it's usually about an hour long. So I'm going to try and cull a few things out of it and just concentrate on like the major WordPress security benefits from those. But yeah, so I've not given the talk in a couple of years, so it'll be quite interesting to see what things have changed. I'll do a little bit of research during the month.
There's a great paper out that's been out for years, and I think it's called 101 Ways to Secure Your WordPress Website. It's got about over 100 things that you can do, including stuff in the config file and the Cloudflare stuff and password management, and it's been around for a long time. If you just do a search on 101 ways to secure WordPress, you'll get a hit.
I'll have a look at that, but join me for the presentation, because I start with a kind of an interesting angle, because the 101 things to secure WordPress is good. What worries me is the 102nd vector attack. So there's always something else out there. But yeah, thanks for that. I'll have a look for that, Robert.
That's on the Tuesday this week, Will, is it?
It is, yeah. I've got a family member with a birthday on the Monday. It's not mine. So.
That's all right. That's all right. It should be good. I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Cool. Thanks, Demi. Okay, guys, shall we round up for tonight? Good. Maurice, do you want to? I think there's another couple of slides.
I can't make him host again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
When I crashed, did you put up your slide? I think there's just one slide left.
Okay, yeah, I'll just do it. Okay, I'll do it.
And then I can talk through it.
Okay, I'll do that quickly. I think.
Sorry, I don't have the power, Maurice.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks, Will. That was really interesting. The next one is by John on the 4th of November, again at 6 p.m. Sydney time. He's going to talk about networking, and a lot of people are self-employed and freelancing and things like that. So he's going to talk about himself, his experience with networking as a freelancer, as an agent, and he's going to put a bit of Elementor into there somewhere. But that should also be an interesting talk on just how to cope with all of that. So, John, anything else to add to that?
Just going through what I've done and what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me. But what I really want to hear at the end of the talk is just advice from all of you guys. And, you've probably all tried different things as well. I'd like to know what has worked for you and what hasn't worked for you, so we can just sort of share all this advice.
See you all next time.
See you later, guys.
You're on mute, Will. I don't know if you said something there.
There we go. I just said November the 4th, next month, 6 p.m.
See you there.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. And see you guys next week. Thank you for all the questions. Take care. Stay safe.
Thanks very much, everyone. Sorry, I missed most of it today.
You can watch a recording.
I will. Thank you very much for answering the question, Maurice.
See ya.
See you guys.
See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks very much for hosting this. It was very good. Worth the wake up.
Again at 3 o'clock.
Have a great breakfast now.
Bye. See ya. Bye.
Thank you, Julia. I will do. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.